Until you change. All right, good morning. I'm Reverend Dr. Brigitte Heimers, here at the teaching of the Inner Christ in El Cajon. And my talk title today is, Who is with me? And this question refers to the title of a book written by Anne Meyer McKeever. And in this book, and Meyer McKeever tells us, quote, how a new teaching came to the earth, end of quote. So to refresh your memory, I recommend to you to please read Reverend Marianne Kelly's fascinating article in our October program entitled Anne's Amazing Journey, the Birth of T.I.C., end of quote. So here at the teaching of the Inner Christ, we always look forward to the month of October, because the Sunday next or closest to October 19 is designated as Awareness Day, which in many ways is our special holiday in the calendar year. It relates to the co-founder of the teaching, Dr. Anne Meyer McKeever, and the experiences she had that evening of October 19 in 1962 during a concert at the Ross Auditorium of the San Diego High School downtown on 12th Street and Park Boulevard. And I don't think they exist anymore now. But that was at that time in 1962. So a wonderful stranger that sat down beside her and opened the way for a sequence of events to come to her during the following weeks and months. And you might have already guessed this wonderful stranger was the Master Babaji. So who is with me? This is the book, Who is with me, was published in July of 2003. And I feel so blessed because I was a donor at that time to that project, and so I own copy number 4. Copy number 4 of the special first edition. It is autographed by Anne Meyer McKeever. And of course, her book is also available now in our bookstore. I find it not only very fascinating reading, but the book also transmits Dr. Anne's vibration of great love and joy and assurance. Even to this day, she continues to change many lives just as she did when she was on the earth. I still remember vividly the first course of inner sensitivity, which she and Dr. Peter Meyer taught from their manuscripts, because the textbook, Being a Christ, was not published as yet. So I took notes, as you know I always do. I took shorthand notes during each class, and when the textbook came out, in comparing my notes with the text material, I was able to find entire paragraphs verbatim from my shorthand notes in the textbook, and that was great fun to discover. So this year represents the 58th birthday, or let's say the 58th anniversary. And the day closest to October 19 is this Sunday, October 18th. Awareness Day, with a very special program you don't want to miss. You'll find details in our October bulletin. I am Babaji. These are the words that Dr. Anne heard from the stranger. But who is Babaji? At the time, of course, that wasn't very much known, but we now know that he is one of the ascended masters like Jesus, the Holy Spirit, Ea, and the beautiful many Christ beings, quote, who came down, it says right here on the book, quote, who came down upon the earth in physical form in our time to give to the world a new teaching and lift all humans into a new concept of our true divinity. And that is here in the book on page 4. As Dr. Anne tells us in the beginning of her book, she also says there, and I quote, "My story is your story. To God be the glory," and she had all of this in capital letters. In our so-called pink books, which are channeled messages from the present Jesus, we are told that, quote, everyone is a living Christ. We don't have to earn being a Christ. Each human being has that divinity within. In our classes, we learn also the name of our I am or Christ self and receive a signal so that we know at all times who is communicating with us, whose messages do we receive. This is so assuring. We don't have to doubt any messages. We don't have to be afraid. We can trust our I am self at all times with utmost faith. In fact, we are always, quote, in our right and perfect place, as we sing in one of our Sunday morning songs. So I am Babaji was the message Dr. Anne heard. And when she accepted Babaji, she was able to receive the teaching for which we are very grateful. I always hear, quote, I am Jesus, or I am Aga Jesus, that is my I am self, which lets me know that I am lifted to the level of the divinity within. Every time I meditate, I pray or do my channeling, I call on my I am self, and also wait to receive my signals, which feels like having a divine appointment. I am able to realize that my I am self, that spirit within, is my internal reference point. Actually, when I think about it, it always has been throughout my life. During my first 25 years in Germany, I called the spirit within me that still small voice, which always gave me wonderful answers and direction. As a child during the war, I always felt protected and in my right and perfect place so long as I was near my parents. And you know, that was a difficult time. Almost every night we needed to get up and go into the basement, and each one of us had bunk beds to continue sleeping, and sometimes the house was, shaking. So it was a very difficult time. And when my part of the country came under Russian occupation, with all of its shortcomings, especially when we did not have freedom of speech, we did not have freedom of movement and any of the other freedoms we take for granted, of course, in the free world. But as some of you know, I did find a way to leave East Germany. And that was in 1956. And I went to West Germany, which was then the true democratic part of Germany. Some of you might not be too familiar with all the history, but I remember that so vividly. I lived then in Düsseldorf at the Rhine River. Years later, when I applied for a visa to the United States, and I was asked whether I wanted a visitor visa or an immigration visa, it was this small voice from within which answered for me clearly and loudly, an immigration visa. Interestingly, I did not question this decision at that time. Only months later, when I arrived in San Diego in 1960, I saw the wisdom of it all unfold. I liked it here so well. During the first few weeks of my visit with my German girlfriend from high school, her name was Waltraud. She has, in the meantime, moved on to the next dimension. So that I changed my mind about returning to Germany. I was only going to be here to visit her, but I decided this is where I want to stay. And then it occurred to me how wonderful it was, the way I answered. I didn't have to go back and come all the way later. So it was all just divine right order. When I found a position in my field of international advertising, soon thereafter, I knew America was the new country for me. And gradually I realized that I came here for another purpose. I trusted my inner guidance completely. And needless to say, I loved my new place in San Diego right away. I think San Diego is one of the most wonderful cities. And we have everything that we need, don't we? And I'm grateful every day, and I give thanks every night before I fall to sleep. Then when I found T.I.C. at the time was at 42nd Street here in San Diego. I took inner sensitivity and made contact with my own inner Christ, I am self, by name and signal. That was very new for me as well. I was delighted because I felt more organized. I now had a handle on my many previous experiences as well. I started to deepen my understanding about my spiritual nature. So needless to say, I took the course several times over. And as I mentioned before, the first few times Dr. Ann and Peter Meyer were teaching from their manuscripts until we finally had the published textbook. In every class, my awareness expanded, and I trusted my I am self Aga completely. Later I had a merger, and my I am self is now Aga Jesus. And this wonderful contact is still as exciting as ever. And the more we use our I am selves or Christ selves in every situation, the easier we find our way through every day. I am a testimony for that. So let me emphasize for those who are still looking, we all have this spiritual connection. And as we work with it, it is unfolding. The more we work with it, the more is unfolding. So as we grow in our Christ awareness, we also receive a deeper understanding regarding our health, regarding love expression, work expression, prosperity, spirituality, and a new vision of this wonderful concept which Jesus taught us many years ago that, and this is Jesus' quote, everyone is a living Christ. This means that we all have a direct connection, a direct line to our God nature. Our focus must be on what God thinks through us. It is all about being a Christ. Feeling God is feeling good. I say that again. Feeling God is feeling good. So are we feeling good this morning?
Yes.
Did we feel good yesterday?
Yes.
So when we feel good, we are in touch with our I am self, or Christ self. And thus we realize our divine nature, which also means that we do not have to ask, who is with me, because we know it. And so I thank you this morning for your attention.
Oh.